Long ago, in the land that we now call South Africa, there was a woman named Unanana who had two beautiful children. They lived in a hut by the roadside, and people would come by every day, and when they saw Unanana's children, they would say, "Oh, what wonderful children! They're so full of life and energy. Their eyes sparkle as they play. They're always singing and dancing and telling stories." And so it was one day Unanana had to go off into the forest to gather firewood. And so she left her children with an older cousin to be the babysitter. And as the children were playing in front of the hut, they heard a twig snap and looked over and saw a great baboon looking down from a tree. The animal looked at the children and said, "Whose children are these?" And the cousin said, "Well, they're Unanana's children." And the baboon said, "Oh, I've never seen such beautiful and happy children. May they always be so." And he disappeared. As they were playing a tag game running around in front of the house, they heard another twig snap and looked over and saw a gazelle. Those fast runners of the fields and savannah. The gazelle looked at the children and the cousin and said, "Whose children are these?" And the cousin said, "Well, they're Unanana's children." "Ah," said the gazelle, "they look so happy and joyful. May they always be so." And the gazelle disappeared into the forest. And as the children were playing a game where they hopped over each other, they heard a grrr from the woods and looked over to see Leopard sitting in the tall branches of a tree, looking right at them, flicking its tail back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. The leopard said, "Whose children are these?" And the cousin said, "Well, they're Unanana's children." "Ah, I've never seen children so beautiful and joyful. May they always be so," said the leopard. And he leapt out of the tree and walked off through the forest. Now the children took a break from their play in the hot part of the day and went to get a drink of water from the great basin in the hut. And when they came out again, they realized there was someone in the yard already. Someone very large, a huge elephant with one tusk. It looked at the children, especially Unanana's two children. "Whose children are these?" said the elephant. They're Unanana's children," said the cousin. "I've never seen children so beautiful and joyful. I bet you they're sweet to eat." Gulp! And with one great gulp, the elephant swallowed Unanana's two children, and then turned and walked into the forest, knocking trees down with his shoulders as he walked. The cousin was so nervous she looked around and saw the path that Unanana had taken and ran off right away to tell Unanana a great one-tusked elephant had stolen her children. Unanana rushed home with the cousin and asked her what had happened. She was very clear about how the elephant looked. It had only one tusk. And Unanana said, "Well, I can try to follow the elephant's trail, but in case I lose the trail, I'll just have to talk to the animals. But first I must prepare." So she cooked up some beans in a great clay pot. And she grabbed her largest carving knife. She set the pot of beans onto her head and carried the knife in her hand and walked down the path that the elephant had made through the woods. It wasn't long till that path joined other paths, and Unanana wasn't sure which way to go. But there on the side of the path she saw a baboon, and she said, "Baboon, have you seen an elephant with one tusk?" And the baboon said, "Ah, yes, yes. Keep going until you find a place with tall trees and white stones on the ground." So Unanana kept on walking. And she climbed to the top of a tall hill and looked around for the tall trees, and she feared that she had lost the trail once again. And there in the meadow she saw a gazelle, and she said, "Gazelle, have you seen an elephant with one tusk?" And the gazelle told her, "Oh, yes, yes. Continue down this path. Travel till you see a place with tall trees and white stones on the ground." Unanana thanked the gazelle and continued on her way. She walked all the way to a river. She found a shallow place to cross the river, but before she crossed it, she looked up into a tree and she saw a leopard, and she said, "Leopard, have you seen an elephant pass this way with just one tusk?" And the leopard said, "Yes. Continue on this path, cross the river, and keep going on the other side till you find a place with tall trees and white rocks." Unanana thanked the leopard and continued on her journey. So she came to a place that had very, very tall trees, taller trees than she'd ever seen before. And there, scattered across the ground, were great white boulders. As she walked, she came across an elephant. She couldn't quite tell how many tusks it had because it was laying down on the ground, and she couldn't see the other tusk. "Elephants, I'm looking for my children, and I'm looking for an elephant with just one tusk. Have you seen it come this way?" And the elephant picked up his head, and Unanana saw that it had only one tusk, and it said, "Oh, yes, yes, I saw an elephant come this way. If you keep down this path till you find a place with very tall trees and white stones, that's where you'll find the elephants, and your children, I hope." They were such beautiful children. Unanana wasn't fooled by the elephants. She said, "Hey, you have my children," and she drew her great carving knife. "Give me my children now." The great elephant stood up. Well, I should have expected that for such fine children, there must be a brave and strong mother who raised them. And he opened his great big mouth and gulp! He swallowed Unanana, the jar of beans on her head, and the sharp knife in her hand. When Unanana opened her eyes in the elephant's stomach, it was very dim, but she could make out just a bit. That great elephant's stomach had bumps like hills, and there were people living all around. There were goats and dogs and cats and other animals. And she searched far and wide till she found her children. And when she saw her children, she knew they would be hungry, so she set down the pot of beans and let them eat. "Mother, Mother, how did you find us?" And Unanana told them of her search and how the animals helped along the way. And then she said, "Well, now it's time for me to do my job." As animals in the forest traveled back and forth, they saw that great elephant with one tusk, and they heard it go, "Ow! Ow! Ow! Oh! Ow!" And they said, "Elephant, what's wrong?" Oh, after I ate that woman Unanana, I have a terrible pain in my side." And then suddenly, thump! The elephant fell over, dead. Unanana carved a great big door between two of the elephant's ribs and let out all the animals and people that had been trapped inside. And after that, well, animals still came to the house of Unanana, and they still commented on how beautiful and clever and joyful her children were. But no one ever came wishing to do those children harm, for all the animals knew of Unanana and what she had done to an elephant with one tusk. And that's the end of the story.